Hey everybody, happy Friday here. Nick Slavic, proprietor of the Nick Slavic Painting and Restoration Company, also the host of this show, Ask a Painter Live. We have a big show today, brand new coating from Sherwin-Williams, some really innovative stuff. And then I am going to give you my COVID plan. So I'm just going to get some screens. I got lots and lots of media to share with you today, so just bear with me for a second. So basically, I want to thank the PCA, the Painting Contractors Association, for being good underwriters of this show. They share the same core values that I have, which are we can all do this better. We can all be more professional. We need to provide better service, better products to our clients. We need to attract better people to the industry, and then we need to make ourselves lose the stigma of the trades. We want people to consider the trades, and if you believe all the statistics, only 1% of all millennials even consider the trades, and that doesn't bode well for us. So let's get into the brand new Sherwin-Williams stuff. Here we go, folks. Flex Temp. You guys have probably seen this stuff around. I know you might have seen it at the trade shows and stuff, but I'm actually gonna incorporate this into some of the stuff we do later. Sorry, let me jockey my screens around here real quick so everybody can see everything. This one. That's the one I'm looking for. Okay, everybody. So, Flex Temp. Get the label right here. Innovative. It's brand new. It's got extreme temperature technology. It can be applied 35 to 120, air, surface, and material. So, really cool. It gives you a lot more flexibility. Now, when we paint in the extremely hot weather, there's a couple things that we're going to find that go wrong with just normal paint when we don't mess with it. There's something called strike through, which is actually when you apply the paint, it's actually drying in the process of that. And, you know, it gets kind of super brush strokey and it doesn't level out nice and you get lap marks. Blistering, like worst case scenario, if the surface is so hot, it flashes off the paint, traps moisture underneath or air, and then it can't escape and you get blistering. And another worst case scenario, extreme conditions, it actually alligators because it doesn't have that proper time to coalesce and to cure. Now, what we deal with a lot here in Minnesota is that cold. We get those shoulder seasons, that April, that October. It can snow in May, it can snow in October, and we kind of have to deal with it, but we also want to serve our clients. So some of the problems we get when it's cold, the paint thickens up in the can. It stays wet forever, but it's just thick. It drags, and it gets kind of ropey when you put it on. You can also get cracking and wrinkling. Likewise, if paint takes too long to dry, you'll see cracking and wrinkling. Worst case scenario, that paint freezes or it can actually crystallize. It's called frosting on the outside of a house. No bueno, we all know this. This paint is here to help that out. Long-lasting, smooth appearance, awesome adhesion too, by the way. This is going to extend your painting season, both at the start and the end, with its temperature adaptive technology. Basically, what you get is a lot more flexibility, and it's not going to sacrifice any of the good stuff. Like the bulk of what I do in the summer is duration. You're not going to sacrifice any of that, like tried and true duration quality, in order to get a little bit on the shoulder months here. So, and especially for you people down in the hot areas all the summer. So easy application too. So it's still 100% acrylic, goes on easy, uniform finish. And the best part is you don't need to adjust your technique or do any additives. So I know we've all messed with the additives, either things to make things dry quicker, things to make things dry slower. Fine, if we're all craftspeople, we know the science, we got experience, but what if you got a whole bunch of apprentices out in the field who don't have the experience and they're mixing up their own cocktails and magic potions in the field? You do not want that. It adds in way too many variables. This, you guys know I'm a huge fan of simplicity. This takes all that magic potion mixing out of the field, and it's sort of just, this is it. You open a can and you use it. So this new formula with Flex Temp actually flexes with temperature fluctuations. So the interesting thing is, this isn't for just when you apply it. This is also for after the stuff dries. It flexes with the temperature fluctuations there. Still with the good adhesion, the long-term resistance to flaking, peeling, weathering, all that stuff. Colors and finishes. Flat satin gloss, as you would expect. You can actually tint this into vinyl safe colors too. So that means hot parts of the summer, if it's within the specs, you can still get those deep vinyl safe colors on stable, clean substrate, vinyl siding, and it'll still work. Basically, you guys know what this is. It's the same regardless of temperature. That's what this paint does. If it gets a little hot, if it gets a little cold, it's going to act like all the Sherwin stuff that we know and love. So if you guys want to try it out, give this sucker a shot. For you people way down south, middle of the country, when it's hot right now, give it a try for the hot temps. I know that I'm going to be using this on some of our fall projects, see if we can't extend a little bit on our shoulder season there. So thanks everybody for watching. Kaylin, thanks much. David, always good to see David. We talk frequently. Heike, how's it going? Good to see you. Paul Rafferty. Oh man, love Paul. Thanks, Paul. Aaron, it's Friday. Aaron's awesome, man. We actually talked yesterday on my drive home from an estimate. No fun painting in 100 degrees. Oh yeah, the humidity too down there. That's a bad thing. Bill, there you are. Bill first. We talk frequently as well. So, all right, everybody, we're going to get rid of the graphic here. Now we're going to get down to business. The reason you guys are here. It's a year of COVID. I'm going to give you my COVID plan with the caveat that this is not a legally binding document. You guys know this. This is not me trying to cover my rear end. This is me trying to give you good guidance. I have changed this thing 6 times in the last 6 months. I will tell you this. Do not take my COVID plan, copy and paste it, not look through it, not read it, not adapt it to your company, and just throw it out there. You need to adapt this to your company, but I can save you 80% of the headache because I did all the homework. We've had a lot of experience with the plan here, and we're going to go forth into that. Oh, Tina, Trainer Tina, Craftsman Tina. Will it work for interior window trim in the dead of winter when it's 25 below and it's almost frosting over? So less than ideal conditions. You still need the substrate and the air temp to be at least 35. So if that glass, because we're going to be touching the glass with that paint, if that glass is 35 or more, yes, it will. If the glass is not, or there's active moisture on it, it will not work. And that no paint will work for that. So good question though. Lacey, how's it going? Mike Danahy, how's it going? All right, guys, down to business. Enough hellos. Sorry for the people I missed. We're going to go through my COVID plan. I have a folder. There's 5 documents, give or take. There is the COVID plan. The state of Minnesota requires me to have a long document that basically lists out in Word form what we're going to do to keep our people safe, our clients safe, everybody around them, what we do in case of COVID, how we keep ourselves safe, things like that. That's there. I used a template from the state of Minnesota. I would guess every one of your states has this template. Me and my leadership team got together. We plugged in, we played, we adapted it to our company. That's the thing that you kind of just have to have. General contractors, painters, if you work for general contractors, it's likely if they run a tight ship, they're going to have you have a COVID plan as well. People asking you for a COVID plan is a sign that they're a real business, which is a good thing, by the way. Then I did a whole bunch of my homemade documents that are easily consumable by me, my painters, people around them, because a 5-page, 1,000 words per page document doesn't really mean a lot. And I'm not good at reading those and digesting and coming up with plans. So I made a bunch of infographics, and that's the thing that's going to help you guys out. Again, I want you to look at them. I want you to see how it adapts to your state. This has all come down from the CDC. I took guidance from all of their stuff. I took guidance from the state of Minnesota, and I compiled this for you. And now we are going to share it. I'm going to walk you guys through it here. And then, as always, if you email me, nick@nickslavic.com, and say, hey, Nick, you said you're going to give us a COVID plan. Give us a COVID plan. I will send it to you. I have a small ask in return, but compared to what you're getting, I hope it's good value. So, all right, number 1. Let's rearrange my. So, decision tree. Business owners, if you have not already, this is what's going to happen to you. You're going to get somebody who says, guess what, Nick? It's Monday morning. This weekend, I was at a party. I was an hour away. My girlfriend or boyfriend knew a guy who coughed, who may or may not have had COVID. I don't know if he was at the party, but I think I've been exposed to COVID. What do you want me to do? And before I had read all the guidance and everything else, it was always like, I don't know. Like, do you feel unsafe? Are you sick? What do we do? Can I make you get tested? This and that. This one document is probably the most valuable document in the whole thing. This is condensed down from the state of Minnesota and the CDC's guidelines. Now, again, caveat, this changes weekly. I've adapted this thing 6 times over the last 6 months to changing guidelines. So here you are. When somebody comes to you and says, I've been exposed, I have a cough, I have a positive test, this is your decision tree. Number one, the only question as a business owner, again, this is not, I hate covering myself legally. I hate being legalistic about everything. What I truly care about is the health of my people and the health of my clients, the health of my own family, so this can all continue. So really, all these plans is a simple way that I think will take a good amount of effort, but it will keep your people safe. I ask one question to get down to the point. Do you have COVID-19 symptoms? And there are 2 answers to that, basically. I have the symptoms, or I've tested positive. If you don't have symptoms for that, you just keep on working until you have symptoms or a positive test. If you have symptoms of COVID-19, the CDC recommends self-quarantining. As a business, I'm going to get into this, you cannot legally make somebody get tested. The CDC actually recommends at this time that you do not get tested because they don't want to overwhelm the testing sites. Now, interesting, if you call a clinic, we as an experiment, a bunch of people in my company, we did call our local clinics and we got a whole bunch of differing sort of, responses to that. But the CDC, which is arguably a higher organization and has a higher order than that, they actually recommend you don't get tested so you don't overwhelm. Also, a business can't legally get people tested. If you have symptoms, the CDC recommends one thing and one thing only: self-quarantine. And then the question is, when can I return to work? There's basically 2 options: 10 days after a positive test, or after 2 consecutive negative tests. There is more to this. They have to be spaced at least a day or 2 apart. Again, read the CDC guidelines. I have all the links in there for you. This is just an easy flow chart for people to understand. What if you've tested positive for COVID-19? You self-quarantine. And when can you return back to work? Same thing. 10 days after a positive test, or 2 consecutive negative tests spaced out by some amount of time, a day or 2. Or 3 days. The other option is 3 days after your fever is gone with no symptoms, and 10 days since any of the first symptoms appeared. So there's scenarios where you have people get tested and you don't have people get tested, and they both give you a similar determination. Now, we're going to get into what happens when you have a positive test in the workplace. Who do you have to tell? What happens to people who are near them? We'll get into that a little more. But the decision COVID tree, this has been one of the most clarifying documents for me, and we'll get into some of that stuff more. Okay. Apprentice and craftsperson responsibilities in my company. There are things that I'm responsible for, lots of them. I'm responsible for the safety of all my people during this time. There are things that I cannot be responsible for. I can train people, I can hold them accountable, but I can't make them do it. Responsibilities. Number 1, in my business, an official business, you will wear a mask 100% of the time, unless you have a medical condition. Number 2, wash your hands frequently. Number 3, social distance. Social distance is 6 feet apart, 2 arm lengths, give or take. You have to monitor your symptoms, and you have to wash frequently your frequently used items, equipment, things like that. We provide all the cleaning gear, we provide the masks, we do everything else. The people just have to use them. This is not new to our trade. Our trade is good with PPE. We do it all the time. Ear protection, eye protection, respirators, knee pads, body suits, spray socks, things like that. Simply just wearing a mask and washing your hands is actually a pretty easy thing to do when you've been in full RRP gear. It's 80 degrees outside, you got respirator, goggles on, full suit on. Just wearing a mask and washing your hands seems like a pretty easy walk in the park compared to all that. So this is what I expect of my people. This is their personal responsibility. I cannot make them do this. I can ask them, I can try to hold them accountable. I cannot make them do that. But that's sort of the give and take of the everyday. Now, here's where we kind of get into the FAQ of everything. And I'm gonna, let's switch that around. There we go. All right, so I do this, I have a similar thing for my clients too. Whenever we have a job, we have something called an info sheet that basically says, in my 28 years, here's basically every question everybody asked me. Here's the answer right here. So you don't have to ask it again, or if you do, at least you have it in writing to verify. This is basically a condensation of everything, all my experiences with COVID yet, CDC, state of Minnesota, all this other stuff. So basically, I'll walk through this with you guys. where do all these guidelines come from? And I want my people to know, I want my clients to know, this isn't my plan. This is the CDC's plan. None of this is made up. I want to take this, pass it through the Nick Slavic filter, make it simple and make it effective. I was in the Army. They have millions of SOPs. An SOP for everything, making your bed, as the famous one is. There are so many SOPs, and they are so legally worded that nobody follows them for the most part. So what I wanted to do is make a simple thing. Instead of being perfect, let's be effective. Let's actually be safe. Where do these guidelines come from? They are not mine, they are the CDC's. What is exposure? This is one of the biggest helpful clarifying points of all of COVID. What is exposure? There's a legal definition of exposure, one that will keep you safe. 6 feet, within 6 feet of somebody for greater than 15 minutes. So if you work with a partner who tested positive for COVID and you guys were closer than 6 feet for more than 15 minutes, you should probably either get tested or self-quarantine as well. If you and that person showed up at the job site in 2 separate cars, did not come together, even if you came together, shook hands, and walked away, that's less than 15 minutes. If you showed up on this job site, shook hands, walked away, one person went upstairs, one person went downstairs, and you guys didn't see each other till the end of the day where you briefly walked past each other, shook hands, got in 2 cars and went home, legally, and by safety measures, you were not exposed to COVID-19. So when people say, what do I do if this? What do I do if this? They need to answer the question within 6 feet for greater than 15 minutes. Can we meet in groups? So we do lots of group things here. We do boss lunches where we bring lunches to job sites. We do happy hours where the company and the families gather at our local brewery, and we have our Justin, our production manager, brings us food from his food truck. We do lots of this stuff. We have weekly meetings. We do lots of job site visits. We needed to clarify this. 10 or less people indoors, 25 or less outdoors. And I know that now that's been changing a little bit. I think you can have 250 people outside, not that it matters. But you mask, social distancing, you still have to observe all that stuff. But again, you get into a weird area of what if we both sat at a table for a half an hour together, we both had our masks on, and we were closer than 6 feet. Technically, are you exposed if you have a mask? Again, there's no guidance on this stuff. There's not a thing that answers that for you. You just need to use your best judgment. Are masks required? Yes, 100% time during company business, you have to wear a mask. What is social distancing? 6 feet or 2 arm lengths between you and anybody else. What's my responsibility as an employee? You must report symptoms or a positive test to the company, and you have to see that responsibility wheel. This is very important. Your employees owe you nothing but reporting of symptoms or a positive test. Normally, in normal times, this actually gets into a little bit of a weird area. Since this is a pandemic, which means a virus, an illness that goes beyond one country's borders, because we're in pandemic time, we start getting into a weird area where it's okay to share medical information with your employer. This is always a weird relationship because basically when it comes to medical stuff, the only thing I ask my people is, are you 100% effective and ready for duty? Can you perform your duty safely? If the answer is yes, we work. If it's no, then we need you to get fixed up. We need a doctor's note that says you're 100% ready to perform safely at work. This is weird, where people report medical conditions. And it's a little bit of a weird area. I'm uncomfortable with it, but it's for the good of keeping people safe. You cannot make your employees get tested. They can't request somebody else gets tested. But because we're in a pandemic and because we want to keep people safe, it's the employee's responsibility to report that they have symptoms or report that they have a positive test. Then reference the decision tree. Pretty easy. Do I have to get tested? No. The CDC actually recommends at the time of this that you do not get tested. But the interesting thing is when we call our clinics, nobody would be refused a test if they want one. Do I have to tell people if I test positive? No, unless it's your employer. You do not need to tell your working partner, your crew members, your fellow employees, but you must inform your employer so that they can take the necessary things to keep people safe. Can I find out if people tested positive in the company? Medical records are private and they won't be shared by my company, no matter what. You can inquire all you want. Legally, I cannot share another human's medical records. We can get into the area of you have been exposed. to COVID, or you have not been exposed. I can tell you that, and then we need to move on. Can I get unemployment if I self-quarantine? This spring, you could. They were giving full unemployment plus incentive checks to people who are fully employed. That's a unique time in history. That does not happen, and it doesn't happen now. Unless your employment is terminated or you're not able to get unemployment, at least in the state of Minnesota, based on the Minnesota Department of Labor guidelines at this time. Why was I able to get unemployment, a $600 bonus and a stimulus check this spring? That was a one-time occurrence. They are not available now. And again, reminder, this is not because I don't want to give it to you. If it was available, I would definitely give it to you. Not that I have any control over it, but that was a one-time thing. Actually, if you read the Department of Labor in the state of Minnesota, anybody who files for unemployment that's fully employed that refuses to come back to work and their employer asks them to, they can actually be charged with unemployment fraud if they file for that. You must either quit or be terminated from your employment. And normally, if you quit, you do not get unemployment. If you're terminated, you're generally eligible for unemployment. And again, this is all dictated by the government. This is basic employment law. I've spoken with my lawyer. We've done the CDC. I've read through all the Department of Labor in the state of Minnesota. This is just what's on their website. Do I get paid while self-quarantining? Unique time in our history. There's a thing called the FFCRA. I think it's the Family First Corona Readiness, something or other, but I have a link there for you. You can see it here. Provides up to 80 hours of paid leave if it's COVID related. Now, this is a big shocker to most employers. Employers, you owe all of your employees this by December 31st if they have a legitimate COVID time to self-quarantine. So make sure you're up on this now. Supposedly it's reimbursed in the form of payroll tax credits, which I have not seen yet. And this always makes me a little leery, but I want to do what's right for my people. And if we can quarantine and also get them some pay, we're going to do that. But I know that you do still have to pay for it. It comes out just like regular payroll, and you will be reimbursed by tax credits. Please read through that document. Do not take this for hearsay. Get out there and check it out for yourself. Can I take this paid COVID intermittently? No. If you're self-quarantining, you must self-quarantine for those 80 hours or the equivalent of when your symptoms are gone and things like that. So you can't just take a COVID day once a week between now and the rest of the year. What happens if somebody tests positive this fall or winter after the self-quarantine? Self-quarantine is always recommended. All leave after the initial paid self-quarantine is all unpaid. So again, it's force majeure. We're dealing with what we're dealing with. What happens if I have symptoms of COVID? Refer to the COVID decision tree. Self-quarantining is recommended. What happens if I've come into contact with somebody who's had COVID? Again, you're only required to report a positive test or symptoms. Coming to your employer and saying, I think I've been in contact, I got to ask a few questions. Do you have symptoms or do you have a positive test? And there's really nothing else besides that. I can't tell you to self-quarantine every time you think you passed by it, because you probably need a paycheck, and it would be nice for me to have all my people show up to work. What if I'm in a high-risk group for COVID? You're only required to report symptoms or positive tests. Again, I can't give you personal health guidance. I can just tell you what I need of you to keep you safe. Can the business get shut down, and will we lose our jobs? This is weird. During COVID-1, as I call it in the spring, we're deemed an essential business, and we kept our doors open as painfully as it was because a lot of people self-quarantined. And I thought, as the leader of this company, it was a good thing to offer my people full employment or self-quarantining. I thought that was the best choice, and I still think it is. So basically, what I told my people is currently we're listed as an essential business. We're not going to stop working. We have over 5 months of work sold and ready to go on the books. And full-time work is expected out of everybody unless you're self-quarantining. We can't just not work just to not work. I mean, these are jobs, and if everybody self-quarantines for an indefinite amount of time, I can't guarantee people's jobs are back. Can the company make me get tested? Can I request that other employees get tested? No, absolutely not. I can inquire about symptoms or a positive test. I cannot make you get tested. You cannot make anybody else get tested. So again, email me and I will send you that. Okay, so we're going to show you, get in here and show you. I'm not going to read through this whole thing because this is dry as toast. But I'll show you what an example of a COVID plan looks like. This is the big old written COVID plan here. So basically, it just outlines, these are the things we're gonna do in long form instead of a graphic to keep people safe. Again, I wish I was genius enough to come up with this. This is a template provided by the state of Minnesota. I spent about an hour or two with my leadership team conforming this to our workplace. One of the coolest things on here, even if, this is all common sense stuff, this basically puts in long form what we do in our company on those infographics. But down here below is all the links you will ever need for this stuff. So if something comes up, now again, you're gonna have to dig through government websites, but if anything comes up, everything you go, mirror image, sorry. Everything you need is on one of those links down there too. So again, I'll share this with you. I'm happy to, because again, my overall goal, I want to professionalize this industry and I want to keep people safe. If our businesses keep getting shut down or our clients fear that we're going to bring a pandemic into their house, that's not good for anybody. It's not good for the industry or any of that. So we're not going to do that. Let's see, what else do I have to share for you? I think that's about it, folks. See if we got any questions here. I'm not seeing any. Lexi, how's it going? Mike, Stevie, how's it going, man? And Shay, how's it going, man? All right, everybody. Well, I think that's it for me. You guys know what to do from here. It's family time for me after this, so I'm probably not going to get to a lot of the emails, but first thing Monday morning when it's dark and quiet here early in the morning, I'll be answering all your emails. And thanks everybody for watching. Thank you to the PCA, the Painting Contractors Association. If you guys have not caught it, the PCA had Operation COVID Response, and they had a whole bunch, I think it was an 8-week series of webinars and the like that dealt specifically like this in real time in a global pandemic, free to not only members, to the world. So if you want more information, perspective on that, do that. Email me, nick@nickslavic.com, and I will send you my COVID plan. And as always, thank you to fine people at Sherwin-Williams. Paintbrush and a dream, as Jason Paris says. I'm going to be trying some Flex Temp probably in the next 5 weeks here as the temperatures start dropping. And thanks everybody for watching. I do appreciate it. Family time for me. Have a good weekend.